That's courtesy of Steven Spielberg. I shot for him, and his attorney sent me this piece that said, this is missing. This clause is missing in your contract. Take a shot of it. It's an awesome thing to have in yours. Read it. It's about artistic style. Grab your cell phone. You know what? You email me, and I'll send it to you. All right? joe@joebuissink.com. If you can't see this, you don't have a phone with you, you don't have a camera, I'll send this little piece to you. Okay, I'm going to talk about back to basics. Now, this is a one-day talk that I have. I'm going to do it in an hour. One of the things I've always believed in doing is following your passion. I became passionate about this. All of you in this room are passionate about photography. That's how you started. That's why you picked up the camera. You fell in love with it. What people don't really realize after a while, because we put on the front burner after that passion is there for a little while, the idea of how do I make money at this? And then the passion takes a back seat, because now it's business. How am I going to pay for the rent? How am I going to put food on the table with this passion of mine? And we forget to tap into that passion. So I'm here to tell you today in the next hour, the most important thing about photography. I mean, all technical things aside, you got to know technical stuff. The most important thing about photography is who you are. It's who you are. That, if you work this right, separates you from everyone else in this room. Don't sell the work. It sells itself. Sell you and who you are when you come to the gig. Whether it's a portrait session, whether it's a wedding, whatever it is that you're shooting, when you shoot, come from this place. When you go home from here today, I want you to pick out the favorite images you've ever taken. And I'm not talking about the photos that you took or that someone else took and that you admired, what have you. It's yours, the ones that you love so much. I want you to take those photos and I want you to go into the bedroom. I want you to lock the door, but not without taking a glass of wine and turning on the music a little bit in the room, okay? Nice, gentle music. And I want you to earnestly study those images you love so much. Because most unlikely, this is why you became a photographer. And I'll tell you one thing that's going to happen to every one of you. Over time, you're going to find yourself in every one of those photos. There's no way that any of you can hit the shutter and not leave a piece of yourself into the image. I want you to think about that for a second. When you hit the shutter, it's based on who you are, why it is you click that shutter in that moment. It's very subconscious, even unconscious, why you hit the shutter. Take, for example, 10 photojournalists that go out on assignment to cover this event. And in the event, this moment unfolds in front of all 10, and all 10 start shooting. I'm going to ask you, are those 10 frames all going to be the same? Impossible. Why? It's one moment. Why can't they be the same? It depends where they shot it from, right? One is shooting low with the wide angle. One is shooting with a long lens. One is shooting from behind. One is shooting from up above, looking down. And why? It's because it's based on who they are that they shoot from that direction in that split-second moment. There's oftentimes my other shooters on the job come next to me, and I'll grab this shot. Half the time, I don't make it this far when I shoot. It's too late. So it's from right here, and he goes, What did you just shoot? And I'll show him on the back of the camera. He says, wow, I'm standing right next to you, and I didn't see that. How's that possible? Because it didn't resonate with you and who you are. That moment resonated with me. Do you understand? The slideshows I'm going to show you, you're going to see me in every one of those images. I'll give you a little TMI. It's a small group. I'm only doing this at 3,000 people, and I don't talk about this part of it. When I was little, my mom left at 4.5. I was 4.5 years old, She left me and my little sister. It was in Indonesia. And it was during a very hard time as the Indonesians, the Muslims in that area during that time, being supported by Sukarno and the communist governments, were ousting the Dutch. It was a Dutch colony at the time. So we were living on the plantations, and they were killing all the Dutch people on the plantations. So my mom moved me in with her grandma for a while, and I hadn't seen my mom since then, okay? My father felt the need to marry a woman because he thought that me and my sister needed a mother. But who he married was the evil, wicked stepmother. She used to beat me on a daily basis, kept me from food, locked me in closets. There were times where I was locked in my room because she said children should not be heard or seen. And she would lock me in when friends were over. And I found a way to sneak out one day. And as I'm crawling on my hands and knees, I get behind the couch in the living room so I could hear, every once in a while peeking over so I could see. I find myself doing that at weddings now. I follow the bride from behind. And just as she's walking down the aisle and I see the groom's face, I peek over her shoulder, grab his expression, duck back down. So think about this. Who you are today has been shaped by the environment that you grew up in, your family life, your personal history, all comes into the camera. This camera becomes an extension of your arm, your heart, your eye, and it should all be connected. And that's how I shoot. I'm fully aware that a lot of these shots are shot by a 5-year-old little boy. Photography today for me saves me a little bit every time when I shoot. So when you see these images that I'm about to show you, it's about the emotional content. That's what I'm drawn to, emotions. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's just throw out this digi moment kind of a thing. Everything in my studio cannot be touched by Photoshop. I have a rule. I still shoot film today. Steven Spielberg hires me to shoot black and white film, and that's it. There's a lot of celebrities that want film. There are a lot of regular clients that want film, so I shoot film. And by the way, I'm the second shooter on all my jobs. Woo! Saved. Yes, second shooting. And just to go off topic for a split second. When I started, I was it. And then I hired an assistant to carry my bags because it was just too much schlepping all that stuff around and doing everything myself. Then I hired a second shooter. And the second shooter, because I was the main squeeze, would be doing the stuff that I eventually said, wait a minute, that's what I want to do. I want to do the PJ stuff. That's my shtick, okay? I don't do this posing stuff. I don't like it. And while I do it very quickly, but Mom would give me the shot list with like 100 setups, and I go, whoa, that's not me. So then I decided a couple years ago, hire a primary shooter. Wow, that was so brilliant, so easy. Why didn't I think of that before? Instead of hiring second shooters, the heck with that. Primary shooter, I'm the second shooter. You know why that's great? Because while my primary guy or woman is out there doing these post-formals, all the post stuff that they need to do right after the ceremony or even before the ceremony, Aunt Harriet sees him doing this stuff, and then around reception time, Harriet will say to Henry, her husband, hey, Henry, get the photographer to come take our photo. And Henry walks towards me because I'm closest to him. And she screams, Henry, no, the other one, the real one. Yes, go to the other one. Yes. It's brilliant. And it's not that my work is any better. I just get more of it because I have no more these cuffs on my hands that tie me to the things that I have to do. And by the way, I don't think when I go to the wedding. That's one of the things I'm still working on. It's to leave out the thought process. And so I'm going to tell you real quick right now, we can talk about it in a second after this. I shoot everything in P mode. P for professional. My dear friend Yervant says, Joe, I shoot M for master. And I explain to you in a second why I shoot P mode, okay? But here's one quick slideshow of some recent stuff. Lightroom only, color contrast, that's it. Thank you. Thanks. I'm sorry the images are a little blown out, but I'm hoping you're getting the gist of it. It's not so much, there's no such thing as a perfect picture, only a perfect moment. We spend so much time today in post-production trying to create the perfect image. It doesn't exist. Think about it, only the moment. Shoot first, focus later. That's my motto. I want you to think about that. It's about the moment for me. It's about the moment between moments, the perfect moment. And if I have to think about settings, if I have to think about anything, and where I left things, and as a matter of fact, today I'm 63. This is my birthday. Woo! But I'm losing my memory. Dude, this sucks, this old age thing. So now I have to just work with the system that I can't make a mistake. And so if I leave the thought process out, which is usually where I make my mistake when I have to start thinking about things, then I'm better equipped to shoot those moments. And that's why I say to you, P mode. I want you to think about it for a second. Let me explain something. M, beautiful mode. Learn that first. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you. Okay, learn manual so that you know what it means to control your f-stop and shutter speeds, all the technical stuff that goes with that, okay? Hang out with aperture priority. That's fun too. But for me, P mode is simply for this reason and this reason only. Let's say it's a backlit situation and bride is getting dressed. She's sideways to me. In P mode, I would get what? A silhouette, right? Because it's going to pick up all that light from that background from the window and underexpose the bride completely. I like that because I have a profile, and it's usually very dramatic. So I don't mind that. But now let's say all of a sudden bride turns towards me, and now I have what? Still a silhouette, but a black blob right here for her face. I need the side profile to make it look nice. Mr. M will say, this is how I do it, Joe. I'm facing that window. I'm going to go click. I'm going to look at the back of the camera, and I'm going to make adjustments. Click. I'm going to make another adjustment. One more. Hang on. Hold on. One more. Click. Yep, I got it. And now I'm going to nail that shot every single time, and he or she is absolutely correct. However, the door behind him opens up, and it's the father of the bride. Nicky! He whips around in M. Tough noogies. You and M, there's 8 stops of difference right there in lighting. You just missed a moment. P mode. And I'm going to have to say something. I don't care if you're Nikon, Sony, Canon, thank you. They're my sponsors. I use them. But having said that, why is there a P mode in a professional camera if it's not meant to be used one way or another? If it's just for amateur, because people say I'm dumbing down, I'm just an amateur if I use P mode. No, I'm not. I know how to use P mode. I know when it will fail me. I know how to override it by the simple push of a button, a spin on that dial in the front. I let go of things, and it defaults back to P. So if I am in that window scenario, I do what I call a scene selection, where I think average metering is or spot metering is, leaving my meter always in evaluative or matrix for you guys in Nikon, leaving it there, okay? Here's what I'll do. Half the viewfinder has the window, the corner of it. Half has the carpet. I'm thinking right about there is average. Lock the AE button, but wait, I want spot. All right, spot may not be here, but it may be there. Lock the meter. There's spot metering. Come back around. My thumb is on the AE lock. Essentially, I'm in manual. Get it? Fire, it's all the same. The door opens. Nicky, let go of the button. Whip around. Gotcha. I'm in P mode. It defaults back to P. I can get that shot behind me. I don't have to think about how much do I have to move. And people that use aperture priority, but Joe, what if you can do that in aperture priority? Yes, I can. Sometimes I want 5.6. Suppose I'm looking at that and I've picked my little scene. I lock it. It says 6.3. I dial with my front finger to select either the shutter speed or the f-stop I want. Do you understand how much control I have in 2 fingers? In P mode, and then when I let go of these things, it defaults back to P. Because I cannot afford to miss the moment. For me, it's all about the storytelling of it. For me, it's all about the emotional content. Not just there, the image is not just about what I see or feel. It's also about how I feel. We're going back to the most important thing is who you are. Show your clients what you feel when you shoot a wedding, not just what you see. Okay, there's 3 ways to sell yourself. You can be a commodity. It's based on price, solely price. Cheapest price will get it. Hey, I'm $500. Yeah, well, you know what? She said over there $400. All right, I'll do it for $4. Okay, that's commodity. Second level, you can sell yourself as a service. That's one level above. You can give them books, slideshows, whatever it is you want. The third, the ultimate, is sell yourself as an experience. So when I do my pitch, I'm selling the experience of having me present at their wedding. It's not about the work. You understand? They've already seen it. The online presence now of everyone on their websites is enough. They've narrowed it down to 5, 6 people now they're coming in to talk to you. What is your mission when they come and sit in front of you? It's no longer to sell the work. Yeah, are you going to talk about numbers? Sure. But let's talk about this. What separates you from everybody else? Who you are separates you. Show them, sell them that. Sell them who you are. But the experience, when I do my pitch, is that I'm tapping into the audio, the music in the background, olfactory, jasmine. Taste. You want to partake of the fruit? Would you like to hold the print? Touch. What is all that? When I use all those sensory inputs, it becomes an experience. And that's what I'm selling. And that's going to cost you some money. You get it? I can charge for that. The people that have the money, the wealth in this country, want something that's different than what everybody else can get. And because they can pay for it, they look for it. An interesting thing recently happened at a wedding. I was shooting this really high-end wedding in Beverly Hills, and one of the guests came up running, excited. My gosh, I love the way you shoot, man. My daughter's getting married in 6 months. Are you available? And do you have a card? Sorry, I don't have cards. Ooh, hang on a second. Joe has never had business cards. There's a mentality for the little sliver of the industry that I want. It says, don't tell me who you are by virtue of giving me a card. Let me find you. I'm all about finding the talent that I want. I'm all about finding the artist I want at my daughter's wedding. So I went, my name is Joe Buissink. Get a napkin. And she wrote it down. She was so excited. She wrote down my name and then emailed me the next day. They love that. So there's a psychological reasoning for me not having business cards. Because all of my business for the last 18 years, I've been doing this since I was 44, 19 years now, wow, has been by word of mouth. Okay? It's word of mouth. And that said, if you're in the middle market or the lower end market because you're getting started, yeah, business cards. But remember, I worked my way up into this level here very, very quickly. Okay? I thought when I was 44 and starting, I said, I don't want to start at the bottom by second shooting for someone. I need to get there right now. So I targeted the high-end market. I targeted Hollywood. All those people were already high-end. So I had an idea of what the psychology was behind the people that are in that strata. And it's different from everybody else, okay? Wealthy people say, look, don't pose me. This is like another day in my beautiful life. The wedding cost $2 million and it's nothing to me. That happens. The biggest one was actually here in New York. What they spend? $15 million. Yeah, $15 million for a weekend. Yeehaw. But again, that's the pitch. Okay, so I'm going to show you a slideshow of black and white stuff. And by the way, the black and white stuff, again, it's black and white film, sepia tone. There's a couple color shots, I think, from Portra 800 film. There's a series of 4 or 5 images of a little boy giving the bride something, and I'll prep you with that. When the bride was getting ready, this little boy came in, and he was shuffling his feet. He was looking down at the ground. He was a little dejected. And the bride said, "What's the matter, honey?" And it was his aunt. "Auntie, do I have to wear a tuxedo?" And she said, "Well, yeah, honey, your brother's wearing the tuxedo, and your sister is the flower girl. She's going to throw petals. She's beautiful dress and all. Why don't you want to wear the tuxedo?" "I just don't like the way it feels around my neck." "Well, what do you want to wear?" she said. And he says, "Can I wear this?" And she looked at him. "Sure, sweetie." He was wearing knickers, a white shirt, tennis shoes, and white socks. He was so jazzed. When they walked down the aisle, here comes the brother in his tuxedo with the sister on the arm, throwing petals, perfectly proud. And then here he comes. He was the ring bearer, pillow in hand. He had a little step to him. He was strutting around. He was looking in all directions because he was wearing his white shirt and his knickers walking down the aisle. He was so thankful that right after the wedding ended, it's Beverly Hills Hotel, he was a tent outside for the reception. He ran outside the tent into the garden. He started cutting down some roses. He had a knife in his hand. He got 3 juicy bulbs before the staff caught him, reprimanded him for cutting down the roses in the garden. And he was sitting dejected on the ground. And when the guy left after he was reprimanded, he looked over his shoulder and started smiling. I said, "Oh, I love this kid." I was on a 5-minute break. I grabbed my long lens and I followed him as he started to peel the petals off the roses, gathering it into a little bundle in front of him. And then excitedly, he ran into the tent, came out with a goblet, stuffed the little petals into the goblet. Behind his back, knife still in his hand, peered into the tent, and I just did as he did what he did. And the bride has 16 by 20s on the wall of that little section. And when people come over and they ask her what her wedding was about, she points to the photos on the wall and she said, that was the heart of my wedding. And she tells the story of this little boy saying thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Did you like those frames of the little boy? All right, you all were pitched. Every last one of you I just pitched. I want you to think about that. I set you up. I saw smiles when that slideshow came up with those 4 frames. I saw tears. There were a couple tears. Because I pitched you. I told you what this was about. I told a story about it. That's the power of the pitch. When you have that client sitting in front of you, when you can share with them your heart as to why you do this, or why that bride felt the way she did about that particular image or set of images, you put them into that space. And that's when you sell them. I'm not for everybody, nor would I ever want to be. It gives work to everyone. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. But those that this stuff resonates with when I pitch who I am and why I do it is all I want. And the thing is when you do that, you never have to think what you have to do for that client. You never have to go to this place of, oh my gosh, what do I have to do tomorrow? I mean, again, it puts you back into the thinking mode. The only thing that I do when I come to a wedding, the only thing is make me happy. That's all I'm concerned with. Make me happy. Why? We're on the same page, right? Because I pitch who I am, what I do, why I love it so much, and they book me, they want exactly that. They want what I showed them, who I was. And so when I go to a wedding, I never have to think, what do I have to do for the client now? No, I just got to make me happy. And if that's all I have to do, how awesome is that? That's why 19 years later, I still get shaky right before a wedding. Anxiety attack, gets some butterflies in my gut, the whole 9 yards. Not, am I going to make a mistake? I do make those. It's what am I going to find today? What am I going to seize that's going to be different? The idea at the end of the day for my clients is to give them a book that 20 years later, when they flip through the papers, they go, oh my gosh, I remember what I was feeling in this moment. I remember what I was thinking in this moment. It's about the moment. I'm going to read a couple things off of a thing that I normally don't do this reading thing, but every once in a while I do something. What we have today, because this is still about back to basics, right? What we have today is we have a new industry from when I started. It was all film back then. When you shot film 19 years ago, and even way before me, I'm still kind of a young guy at this when it comes to the people that I've known that have been shooting for 30, 40 years. Okay, so I'm like a newcomer to them. So we shot film. Well, how do we do that? Because trust me, when I have a mixed bag and I have my digital camera on one hand and my film camera on the other, sometimes I grab the film camera and I look on the back and I can't see anything. It's surprising to me. Because we couldn't see. So you had to be educated. Do you understand? The education back then started with studying the masters. Where I take my lead from and I collect these people, I have them on my wall. And every day I look at them in awe. Henri Cartier-Bresson, Robert Duano, Robert Frank, Ruth Bernhardt. I have them all on my wall. They shot back then in the days of rangefinders, ISO 25 film. And they managed to pull off amazing, amazing images. And when I started, I remember saying, gosh, I want to do that. I want to take a 35 millimeter to a wedding. And this was 19 years ago when everybody was on Hasselblads. They were on tripods, they had light stands, and they had umbrellas, and they had power packs and long cords. And I said, my gosh, it's a production. It's a photo shoot. For crying out loud, I want to document their story. What would Buissink have done today? He would have taken his little old Leica and unobtrusively waited for moments and grabbed these spectacular photos of what unfolded at the event. This attitude, this way of shooting, I can guarantee you one thing. Every book that you do for the different clients will be different. If I see one more white album with the little oval window, with the bride and groom superimposed in the steeple of the church, looking down at all their guests. And in gold lettering at the bottom, it says, "Our wedding." I'm going to throw up. Because when you open that book, every image is the same. It's grip and grin. Now, it's not wrong. This is how it was done back then. It was how many can you fit in a photo, because if you can fit in 7, the chances are you might sell 5 5x7s or 7 by, whatever. You can sell that many. You were basing it on how much sales can you crank out of this wedding. So it was nothing but grip and grin. So it was all about who. It was not so much about what, when, or where. And I said, my gosh, but that part of it is what makes the wedding different. So I focused on what, when, and where, with a little bit of who. It goes a long way. Okay, so my suggestion for any of you, how many of you here know the masters I just mentioned? Buissink, Duano, Frank. Okay, a good number of you. That's awesome. Study them. All of us here, I'm going to tell you, you can't be a great painter without having studied Cézanne, any of the masters of the day of Rembrandt, any of those, right? And you can't be a great photographer unless you study some of the old masters that came before us. I truly believe that. We also start by mimicking them. But here's what I implore you to do. Study the masters and then find your own voice. You know, there are people that they're musicians, they either play other people's music that's written for them, or they write their own music. The ones that write their own music are pretty damn good usually, right? You're unique, as Jason was saying. It's all about who you are. One of the things I want to do is take some questions from Twitter, because I was told that Twitter had a ton of them.
Okay, so first off, happy birthday is trending right now on Twitter. So let's all wish Joe a happy birthday.
They did, thank you.
38 years old.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we have a question from Susanna Tran. Learning a lot. Thank you, Joe. Any advice for someone who's starting out, shoots with Canon, happy birthday?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question. One of the things that I learned when I started, I had this idea of doing PJ kind of like work. And then lo and behold, the first 2-3 weddings I shot had a ton of formals in it. Well, I wanted the job. So I did what I thought was expected of me, more in a traditional vein. And I hated it. I started hating. This should never be a job. See, the thing is, again, remember what I said about following your passion, right? You should be living your passion. You should never have to work a day in your life if you've got a camera in your hand. This should be all from the heart. You know what I'm saying? So here I'm doing these formals because I'm thinking this is what they want. I was like disgusted with it. I couldn't stand it. And then I couldn't figure out, why are they not hiring me for the PJ stuff? The stuff I loved. Well, it's because I never really showed it to them. What I showed from the first wedding was the traditional book with the posed images in it, and then they booked me. Guess what people do when they book you? They expect what you've shown them. I had a photographer in LA come up to me and say, dude, I don't know how you sell these single prints, 16 by 20s, and sign and all that. How do you do that? I can't sell a print to save my life. I said, what do you show them when they come in and they book you after? I said, well, they come in, it's a great big flat screen TV, I throw up slideshows, and we talk business, and why? Well, when they leave and they book you, what do they want? Well, that's what ticks me off. They want slideshows. Well, duh. If you show them slideshows and they book you, that's what they want. So be true to yourself. The best thing I can tell you right now is to be honest with who you are and what you want to show of who you are, and sell that, okay? So if you're starting out new, yes, and I get that you might have to throw food on the table and do something you may not want, but as fast as you can, Go do the thing that you truly want to do, and then show them just that. You won't find that many posed images in my work here. I do them. I don't show it because I don't want them to think, oh my God, okay, yeah. And by the way, when they interview me, I'm interviewing them. They may not know it. Because if mom says, I have some shots that I must have, oh, a little light goes off in my brain. So how many shots do you have in mind to post stuff? She says, well, we have a large family. Uh-huh. Now I'm nervous. About 150 setups. I have 3 pages. Oops. I might not be the right person for you. And I'll be very gentle about there's another way that you can get what you want. And she absolutely deserves to get what she's asking. Yeah? A lot of times people get me because I've photographed J-Lo's wedding or Christina Aguilera's wedding or whatever, and they want the name, and I've got this guy, and then at the end of the day, they may be horrified that they're not getting what they wanted. And what they initially wanted was all these formal shots. So I say to you, if you're starting out, be very conscientious about what you're pitching and who you're pitching to by virtue of, is this truly what you want to show them because this is your favorite part of the wedding and how you shoot, or do you want to show them something else? Do I show them the post stuff? Yeah, I do. Sure. Once in that pitch that I was telling you earlier, once I do that thing, one of the reasons is this, where I talk about one image at a time, is that if I hand them a book, don't you ever get this? The book goes into the lap. They flip pages. Every once in a while, they look up. So, Joe, beautiful. How much are you? Okay. Do you have another book? Oh, sure. And how many hours are you on? Wait a minute. They're asking me questions while flipping pages? No. I'm doing the selling. So one at a time makes me the one that turns the pages. They have to listen to me. They have to see the image. They have to stay with the image because that's what we do. Our images are very important to all of us, and we should tell them that exactly in that way. This is important to me. This is who I am. And if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate. It's okay. So after I'm done with that part of it, I hand them a book, and I walk out. Excuse me, I'll be right back. I walk around the corner. I'm just eavesdropping on the other side of the wall because now they're sitting next to each other. They're actually looking at the story without asking me a question and flipping pages. I want them to feel the flow of the story. It's all about storytelling for me, all of it. So that was a good question. Was there any more? Okay, throw me another.
Okay. All right, this is from S. Markman, or Smartman. He says, what are tricks to capturing the emotion?
Tricks. There aren't really tricks. To capture the emotion, you have to be present. One of the things I said earlier about staying focused and being in the moment is exactly that. It's to capture, I'm going to go right to it. This is a good explanation of it, okay? To capture the moment between moments. Right before this, she was looking into his eyes. He's saying his vows. Right after this, she looked back. For a split second, she did that. Boom, gotcha. What this means to me is, oh my gosh, I love you so much, I can't look at you anymore. Do you understand? I know I'm interpreting, putting in my value, but that's what I'm talking about. This is now coming from me. It's not just about that moment, but what I was thinking / feeling about that moment and what it meant to me. Man, she can't look at him anymore. Perfect moment for me. It was for her too. This last one was actually interesting in the sense that I entered that in a print competition and it bombed. Okay, it bombed. It got a 70. I said, are you nuts? To the judges. That is so beautiful. Are you crazy? Joe, it's out of focus. What? Really? What? It has to be F64? It's drop dead gorgeous. Joe, it's out of focus. There is one hair on her head that is tack sharp. That's what I told him. When the bride saw this, she wept. She wept. That's 100. That's 100. I said, why are you weeping? That was our first dance as husband and wife. I remember exactly what I was feeling. 250 people on that dance floor. I don't remember one of them being there. I just remember this moment. That's 100. So, careful. It's great to find out where you stack up, technically speaking, but not all judges are going to get what you bride and groom are going to get. And what it means to them is completely different than what it means to a judge. Okay, so I love this. One of my faves. Yeah, there's some really good, interesting stuff. Again, long lens, 70 to 200. She's soft. Why? Because she was moving. Because as I'm looking through the viewfinder, I hear click, click, and I look really quickly. It's a quarter of a second, 2.8. I'm going, and I'm on a 70 to 200. Are you kidding me? I hope it's there. So again, luckily for us digitally, we can go, oh gosh, is it there? I can't do that with this. He's perfectly still. So as he's drawing her onto the dance floor, he's tack sharp, she's soft. I like that. I like the movement of it. I don't mind that it's blurred or out of focus. That's why I say to you, shoot first, focus later. Because if I had to think about this technically as a professional photographer and look down at my screen, did I get this? Or wait, I got to move my settings really fast because this is low light right now. Where are you at this moment? It's gone. It's never coming back. It's history. You missed it. And that's why the other reason, you know, my second shooters, when they first start, they do this a lot. It's click and then look, click and then look. Why do you think they call this chimping? You know, they used to call that chimping in the day of looking. It's like cheating, you're looking at the screen. No, I look at it differently. Chimping means, that's what it means. So you're stuck on that screen, and what do you miss? 10 moments that unfold in front of you, and you're not aware of it because you're busy looking at the back of the screen. So sometimes I think it's a deterrent, using that screen. I ask my second shooters, actually primary shooters, don't look at the screen. When they first start with me, there's been a few of them where they were so insistent on looking on the screen, I taped them up with black tape. Oh, talk about freaking out. They couldn't live. I said, well, what do you think I do with film? It's the same thing. You can't see, dude. So tell me what you know and how to do this in camera. Forget the thought of, I'll fix it later. I hear that a lot. I don't need to know how to shoot. I'll fix it later. Really? Look, it's a craft. Hopefully, to some of you, all of you, an art form. Get it the best you can in camera and then enhance it. Absolutely enhance it. Don't take it so far as to make that grass so green it belongs to another planet. A sky, I've never seen that color blue or purple before in the sky. Honestly, it's too much. It becomes graphic art. If you spend that much time in Photoshop tweaking things, it's now graphic art. And guess what Photoshop was intended first? It was intended for graphic artists. The population of photographers that use Photoshop is roughly 11%. How about that? 89% are not photographers using Photoshop. So use Lightroom, enhance it. Back in the day of film, yeah, you took it into the lab, you made prints, you put your hands in it. You put yourself in it. You know what? My black and whites, sometimes I'll get a beautiful 11 by 14 that Robert has printed for me. I used to do it all myself, and I can't anymore. I don't have time. But Robert Cavalli prints all my work at home. He'll give me, I'll give him some guidelines. I'll light sepia, do a little vignetting here and there. Okay, cool. I get 2 of those because he prints with what he calls by variation. And he'll give me the 2 that he's asking for, and he says, then I did this. And he hands me the 3rd one, and I go, because now he's got his little mojo in it. So that ends up being my favorite. I'm at it. The bride comes over. I show it. She goes, oh, my gosh, can you get me one of those? I don't think so. Why? Because Robert's not going to remember how much dodging and burning he did. Exactly. The temperature of the chemistry is slightly different. The sepia tone is a little diluted than the last time. It's going to be close. That's what I like about it. It's art. Every print is an individual print. With digital, it's click, 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 click. It's all the same. I love it. There's nothing wrong with it. But I also want something that, man, you can only get one of. That's what was brilliant about what we did way back when, right? Let's see what else I can find you. Ask me.
How much do you charge for hand-printed black and white?
How much do I charge for a hand-printed black and white? I'm actually easygoing. And here's a little psychology for you. Ready? It's in my price list. An 11 by 14 is $250. Okay? If you want it signed, it's $500. 60% buy them signed. Same darn print. Just my signature. Why? I pitched it that way. The value of my signature. $250 cost me $60 to make. I make $190. That's okay. It's a 300% markup. But they still buy them for $500 because they want my signature on it. Sell it that way. Okay. They're listening to the minister. And split second, he looks over at her like that. They were both looking at him. For a split second, she never knew. That's the other thing we do. We give them imagery that they weren't even aware of. So if you tell a story, and it's not directly in camera, and they're not camera aware of you, you're giving them something, my gosh, I didn't even know. So, I mean, it was a split second, then he looked back over to the minister, and she never knew it. It's beautiful. Moment between moments. He looks like a serial killer, but it's all good. They're still happily married. But do you understand? It's the moment between moments that ends up working out the best. That's the perfect moment.
Joe?
Yep.
How come you don't get that audio with post-production of the
Post-production. Okay. Easily said. Back in the film days, I would come back on a Monday to the lab. This after taking the Sunday off, chilling out. Like I said, I live on the beach, feet are up, watching the boats going in and out of the harbor. It's kind of nice. On Monday, I would go to the lab with a baggie of film, and I would drop it off on the counter. See you on Thursday. That was post-production. It still is for me. Isn't that awesome? The lab does it. They process the film, they do the proofing or proof sheets, whatever it is I want, or they do negs only run it, and then I scan them. All good. Nowadays, my primary shooter is also my post-production guy. So on Monday, he will download all my cards and his cards. By the way, I don't know if you all do this with your shooters, but we time our cameras, we sync them on every gig so that we're exactly on the same. When we load them in, it's all timed, okay? So I shoot roughly, if I shoot digital, I shoot roughly 1,500 images over a 7-8 hour period. He shoots the same, she shoots the same. If she's there, total 3,000. Then I have a woman edit for me. My ex-wife used to do all my editing. I want a woman to look at it because she's editing for another woman. You get that? We are, the guys here, technical. It's all about composition, light, and this. And there are times when I go, "You're throwing that out? Those are one of my children." And she says, "Yeah, it sucks." What? Are you nuts? No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. It's out. She's brutal. So I wait till she goes to sleep. I sneak the sucker back right into the folder because it's one of my kids. But she narrows down to 700. She kills off 2,300 images. That's a lot. But you get 700 amazing images, okay? Then he takes those 700 RAWs and he does a very simple, everything that you've seen so far on that first slideshow, there's nothing been wowed yet. What he does is color, contrast, density. Boom, done. Very basic steps in Lightroom. He'll sometimes see that these shots are all a third of a stop off. He'll gang them up together and does apply to all on these and done. Then I go in, from those 700, I select 20 to 30 images that he wows. We put it on Pictage. I use Pictage as my back end. They do everything for me. They're my lab. They're everything. But we put them on Pictage, a folder called Joe's Favorites of that wedding. 20, 30. He takes them in the Lightroom. He does a little extra, a little vignetting, a little burning in here. He might have to crop a little bit on this one. We're finished with that, okay? Do I use Lightroom? Only if the mother of the bride says, look, I can't, get rid of it. Okay. So we will go that far if we have to, but mostly it's all Lightroom-based stuff. We really don't want to touch Photoshop if we don't have to. So then, if the package has a basic book with 50 images in it, and this is the reason I have Joe's favorite folders, they hired me for a reason. The sell, right? That pitch. So they must have that in their book. So if they already have 30 out of 50 that are my favorites in their book, and they can only add 20, and how many of my favorites are post, hello, grip and grin, all the formals? 0, 0, 0, because I know they'll have to add that in. So they'll add that in, and before you know it, they're at 150. So I always upsell. Without putting a gun to anybody's head, but by virtue of you got 700 images, you have to cut it down to 50. Good luck. Good luck. And they never can. It's impossible. So it's a nice way to upsell yourself if you want to do that. How about a full slideshow? Don't you want to see like a whole wedding? Yeah, you do. It's easy to have someone show the best of, and while that's fun to do, you got to see a whole wedding. And it doesn't matter who shot what, but I'm going to tell you straight up, like in this wedding, my primary shooter's here. Here's what the rule is. I stay with the bride, I never leave her side. He stays or she stays with the groom, never leaves their side. Once we're at the reception, if you see me or I see you, we're in the wrong place. We separate ourselves. The minute I see him, I go the other way. Because there's nothing worse than having duplicate shots over and over and over to edit out. So I'd rather be somewhere else where he's not seeing or she's not seeing and vice versa, right? So pretty much that's it. So this is, again, all that's been done here. I think there's one shot. I'll jump to it really fast so you can see. This was wowed. And let me see. It's in here. So you can see to the extent that it was wowed. That's wowed. And unfortunately, you can't really see it on here. It's really beautiful on the laptop. But we did a little extra work on this one. Just a little vignetting in the top. You won't even see it here, but the top, there's a little vignetting on it, a little more boost in the contrast. It was really nice. But here you go. This is a full-on wedding. Recently. This was, I want to say, 2 months ago. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There was a question, and I had to think about it for a second. What was my worst wedding mistake? And I'm thinking, gosh, there was one time when I was shooting both digitally and film, and luckily I was shooting digital because there was a power outage in LA while my film was processed, and it was in a dip and dunk processor, and it was in the developer. And film went in, and the power went off. Film stayed in. Cooked it. So there were 10 rolls of film. When pulled out, there was nothing on it. So, you know, luckily I had backed up. And again, luckily as well, my primary shooters cover quite a bit of stuff. And while I look for primary shooters that do primarily posed stuff or traditional photography, because I don't want exactly the same person shooting what I want to shoot, I need something that complements me and that I complement. So still, having another shooter with you is quite often very helpful. I talked about concentrating on the emotional content of the wedding, and that we get stuck on technical stuff like lighting, composition, and whatnot. And instead, we should follow the emotion that we get from shooting it, and also what we want to impart to our clients in terms of emotions of their wedding, right? That's why I focus on that. And remember what I said as a little kid, I really didn't have really good role models as parents. So when I go to a wedding and I see the love between a man and a woman, I'm drawn to it like a moth to flame, because I never had it. And to see all that love and the way the groom is looking at the bride, and I was like, gosh, yeah, you know, that's how a husband and a wife should be. That's what a potential father and a mother should do and be like, is loving to one another. And so that's in part the reasoning why I shoot the way I shoot, and the reason that I also find those kind of moments, because I'm drawn to them. And like I said, when you go home and look at the images that you've taken that you love so much, I think you're going to find yourself and why you shoot the way you shoot. There might be things that you do that you repeat shooting in the same way, but there may be a reason that you'll find out why you shoot that way. And once you're cognizant of it, once you realize why you did this and you can tap into that, your work will just grow from it because you've identified. Most of us, we spend our whole life looking for our style. You know, I don't know what my style is. And you get all confused about searching for your style. Your style is you. It's who you are. That's your style. I can go into a gallery now and you can almost blindfold me. I can tell you by hiding the names. I can tell you which one's a Buissink. I can tell you which one's a Duano. Because I know their styles. I know who they are. When a picture is hanging, it's not just about the picture. There's a relationship involved. It's between the subject that's in the image and the photographer and the viewer. It's a threefold thing. It requires three attentions, right? If you think about it. So create your own images. That's what I say. Don't do someone else's. I'm going to keep, because I'm the inspirational track, you guys, I'm sorry. There's not a whole lot of technical stuff I can throw at you, but how about another wedding? Okay, we'll do another wedding. All right, thanks. Thanks. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Yeah.
How much of yours is flash, artificial light, natural lighting?
Yep.
When is the first
Okay, yeah. The question was, how much is it artificial lighting versus flash lighting, and then me versus my primary shooters? Whenever I'm asked what my lighting scenario is when I shoot a wedding, this is what I say. I'm an available light shooter. Every once in a while, my flash is available. Yeah, I try and stay away from it. I shoot mostly at, I'd say about 6400 to 10,000 ISO. So I really don't need flash all that much. My primary shooter likes to shoot flash off camera. So he basically has one in his hand and he's shooting. He's got his thing wrapped around his wrist holding the camera, and he's shooting and he's shooting and he's doing this, and he's lighting from all over the place with left hand, flash in hand. That's how he likes to shoot. I'm completely the opposite. And there are times where if I do use flash, it's bounced, right? And I use my prime lenses when I do that. I use 1.250 and 85 1.2. And what I want is directional light. What I'm trying to create is a window. So rather than direct flash, which is more my primary guy, he really likes to do that, a lot of times I will create a window right there and have the light come at a direction, because when you're shooting straight on, it becomes flat lighting, right? It's just flat lighting. You got lighting on either side of the face. It's two-dimensional. What I try and create is 3 dimensions. And the third dimension is depth. And how you create that is with highlights and shadows. So if I have a window and it hits her here, it's highlight, shadow on the other side of her face. And I love shooting that way. It really creates a lot of depth into the images. So yes, I use flash. I've rarely pointed directly at the client anymore, or whoever I'm shooting. It's always a bit away. And my primary shooter uses it all the time. He likes it the way he shoots it. Yes? Yeah, the prime lenses for my weddings. Here's what I bring: 24-70 2.8, 70 to 200 2.8. Those are my 2 go-to lenses, because the new ones, the Type 2s, they are frighteningly sharp, even wide open. Okay, I love them. However, that said, there are times where I want even a little more control over the depth of field, and I want less of it. So I use my 1.2s. I have a 50 millimeter 1.2. And an 85 millimeter 1.2 that I bring. And my favorite lens is the 14 millimeter 2.8 rectilinear. I love that lens. I use it a lot because it allows me the freedom to shoot from right here as I'm walking backwards. I don't even look through the camera anymore. I know I have it. I have figured out how to use this thing, but there's times where it's one of these shots. I want you to imagine in the back of the church, here's Uncle Henry. He's in the last pew. It's an hour-long mass. Okay? He's freaked out now. He's over it. And this is what I see. He's perusing the ceiling where all the frescoes are, the angels. And it's God speaking down, and it's all beautiful. And he's just like in awe. And I come over, and I do one of these numbers, and he sees me, and he goes, hey, wait. And he pulls his wife over. Haven't you seen this one? Okay. So now, here comes the shot. It comes back. Henry goes, hey, Harriet, look, there we are. Oh, yeah, nice shot. But what if, and I do this a lot. Camera's usually right here. I walk by, boom, and he hears the shutter, and he goes, oh, that's cheating. But this is the shot that comes back. What does Henry say? Harriet, do you remember those paintings? Do you remember how beautiful? A memory comes back. A feeling comes back. Because it's camera unaware. You capture them in a moment where they come back and they feel what it was in that moment. And that's the strength of photography and what it can be for them. And that's the difference when I create these books that are completely different from one wedding to another, because it is about their wedding, not someone else's. So those moments really mean a lot to me, and I have to be unobtrusive. I don't know if you saw that shot of J-Lo, the post stuff that I showed, right? The first shot was something that, wow, and I grabbed it really fast. I said, Jen, stand by the window, click. And she goes, wait a minute, Joe, I'm not ready. I said, okay, get ready. The second shot was her getting ready, okay? Now, her mom said, the first one, that's a Jennifer I know. The second one, that's a Jennifer you know. It's camera unaware, and you can do this even shooting portraits. You know, when I am set in to do a portrait session with someone, camera's on the table. I might walk in, camera's down, and I'm just conversing with them. And every once in a while, I'll pop off a shot real quick, put the camera back down. I get them comfortable with the idea that this is an interactive kind of a scenario. And I'm getting to let you get to know me. I want to kind of get to know you a little bit. And before you know it, the portrait session is just gorgeous. And most of the time, the client says to me, my favorite picture is the one where I wasn't aware you were going to shoot me. Because I've captured the essence of who she is in that moment. That's what I'm after. The essence of the person in the moment. That's what I want. Because when you do this, and they're aware of you, what comes out? Camera persona. Hey, yeah, I know this one. Got to smile at the camera. We were taught since kids to smile at the camera when the camera's pointed our way. So every time you do that, everybody smiles at the camera. That's what I want. For the post photos, okay, I'm good with that. But not for these moments that I see. So it's got to be click. Sometimes I go down the middle, right? Pew's over here. That's a shot I want. But I'm looking over here. Hey, how are you today? Click. Oh, that's really gnarly, isn't it? I mean, that's not nice. Yes, it is. The images that I get, because they're now not paying attention to me and all my head's turned that way, but I'm shooting. Don't do that with the 70 to 200. That's all I'm telling you. You'll get a doorknob, you'll get a wall. But a 14 or 1635, 2470 at 24, you can do this all day long. Show them right here, boom, 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 in P mode. Sorry. Got to throw that out once in a while. There was someone, yes, you. If I started today, how would I book my first wedding jobs? I would go after all the coordinators. When I first started, there's a dear friend of mine. His name is Cullen Cowie. He used to have a place in Santa Monica or L.A. and one in New York, in Manhattan. I think the one in Manhattan is still his here. He's still here. I decided, since I was 44, that I didn't have time to kind of like break ground and work with somebody. I needed to get there now. So I looked for the highest end coordinators I could find, and I went directly to them. Now, initially, I was told, you're never going to get an appointment with Colin. He's not going to see you. He's got his photographers, whatever. I just showed up, okay? Now, I don't really like breaking rules, but I like bending them, the heck out of them. It may have not been proper etiquette to just show up, but the point being is that worst case scenario, he kicks me out. What do you want? You're going to get out. But he liked the images so much. I only had 10 images with me. That's all I had. And I just stood in front of him, and he just like looked at me a little puzzled, and I was in the next one, he goes, okay. And I got Kelsey Grammer's wedding. So a lot of the time people say, God, you're so lucky. Yeah, I am. But I place myself in the way of luck so often that eventually it has to hit me. And do I fall on my face? Constantly. Do I make mistakes? Constantly. Do my clients ever see my mistakes? No, they don't need to know about it. When I started shooting infrared, the same thing, right? I didn't know how to shoot it. If I went by and I did initially, go by what Kodak said, the manufacturer, ISO 25, a 25A red filter, that's how you, well, I got raccoon eyes. Every person I shot, I had this idea, I really wanted to shoot this film because it's really ethereal. But raccoon eyes, ugly, ugly. So I never showed the clients that, and then eventually I figured, you know what if I go to an orange filter? So I did that. Okay, less raccoon eyes. Ooh, wait, yellow filter. So I went yellow filter, ISO 125, I think that's where I ended up at, and I got that shot that you saw of Christina Applegate. Drop dead gorgeous, amazing. It looks like, if you saw the actual print, like an etching. That's when I showed it. Okay? So how I would get started is I would initially find your best images that you want to portray as being yours and who you are, and go after the coordinators, go after the venues, and just show up. And even if you have to leave a print there. Sometimes I go to the bridal salons, and I say, look, I'll do a free shoot for you. This is when I started. I'll do a free shoot for you, and as long as you hang one of my prints up, and let me sign that, by the way. Sign it, hand sign it, and let them hang one of your prints. That's the best advertising. Now when I do celebrity gigs, sometimes I parlay the money that's normally my fee for, say, 2 or 3 images to run with for People Magazine or wherever, and then I get the money on that. So I kind of figure it out now, who's A-list, who's B-list, what will this get me? Will it get me more than my normal fee kind of thing? So there are ways to advertise yourself, because the best advertising is the stuff you don't pay for. I've never paid for advertising in my life. In all of the 19 years, not a dime was spent on advertising. There's a way to get yourself into local wedding magazines by virtue of submitting a wedding. Okay, so don't submit, I do them blindly, blind submissions, but find out this first. Don't send it to the editor, because if you address it to the editor, it gets thrown away. She or he is too busy. Find out by phone call who's the assistant to the editor. Address that DVD to the assistant. Put on 100 images. Don't just throw on 10. Gee, do you like this wedding? Do you want to see more? Throw on 100 of your favorites that tell a story like this. Set it to music. make it a slideshow, send it to them, and then tell a story about it. Write up something on that wedding, your take on it, your heart. Remember what you're doing. You're pitching the assistant to the editor. Now, if you sell it to her or him, she passes it on. So that stuff that the assistant puts on the editor's desk is what the editor will look at. Yeah, I think you'll be interested in it. As a matter of fact, the photographer has a great point of view on this and the feelings about it. It's an awesome thing to do. Sell yourself. It's not just about the work, because there's a whole lot of people submitting blindly. But that, to me, is one of the best ways to get started, to advertise and advertise for free. I'm getting featured, I think it's this next one out, Grace Armand. I don't know if you guys know who Grace Armand is, but I'm in that magazine this month or whenever the next one's out. Same reason, same way. Yes?
How did you get the bride in the ocean for that photo?
Oh, good question. Yay! I'm going to show you that slideshow. So do you guys know who Kelly Pickler is? Singer, American Idol. I think she came in 5th or something like that. Cute little blonde, country western singer. I loved her. So she hired me to shoot a wedding for her. It was November, I don't even remember when, it was like 3 years ago or something like that. And then she called me up and said, it's canceled. I said, why? She said, well, the paparazzi and the press found out when and where, and we're not doing that. Okay. We'll get back to you when families come together on a time, and we'll talk. Okay. So I get a phone call in December, a couple of years ago. She says, okay, what are you doing on New Year's Day? I go, I'm at home. What are you doing? She goes, we're getting married. Want to come? Yeah, where are you getting married? We're going to an island off of the coast of Antigua. It's called Jumbie Bay. The whole island is just a resort. Great, I said. That's awesome. How many? Well, it's me, Kyle, the coordinator, you, and a video guy. What? Yeah, we're running away. The families couldn't come together on a date. And you know what? Doggone it. This wedding is about me, Kyle, and God. That's what this wedding's about. It's okay. She said, you're going to have to be a witness. Sign my license. All right. So we get to this island. This is my first shot. It's actually really fun. I'm thinking all along the way, what am I going to shoot for just 2 people? Well, remember, it's about love, right? It's also remembering what she said initially when she said, this wedding is about me, Kyle, and God. So that's the first shot as I'm on the boat. And I turn around to the boat guy and I say, yo, where do they get married? He said, man, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. They get married right there on the beach in front of the restaurant at sunset. I said, really? I hate doing the same thing anybody else does. Yeah? I'm always trying to be, not better, different. Try and figure out how you can be different, okay? So I look and I said, right at the end, I'm seeing a sandbar. I said, yes, that's it. He says, oh no. I said, what do you mean, oh no? He said, at sunset time, that's underwater. I said, how deep? And he looked at me, really? I said, yeah, how deep? He said, well, to walk out, you're about mid-thigh. And then when you stand there, you're about mid-calf, maybe ankle, depending. Okay, so I go up to Kelly. So Kelly, I'm thinking, you, Kyle, God, in the middle of the ocean at sunset time. She said, great, this is why we hired you. Brilliant, how do I get there? You're going to have to walk. Joe, I have a $15,000 dress. I said, lift it up. So she did. This is Kelly and Kyle. Can you kill a little bit of the lights? Okie dokie. Yay. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. One of the ways people ask me after 19 years, how do you stay sane? Because you shoot weddings every weekend. I do personal projects. A few years ago, the little boy that you saw, he's my son. He's amazing. He's now 20, 6'3", and he has autism. And he taught me so much about life and how to live it that I dedicated myself for 2.5 years doing a book called Autism Heroes, where we followed around 38,000 families. Yeah. And the day after that book was published, my now 8-year-old son was diagnosed with autism, and another amazing human being. But that being said, there are other things that I shoot that have nothing to do with money. They're personal projects of mine, and this very personal in a sense. That's Roy from Triple Scoop Music. I don't know if you know who he is or what they are. The music you're hearing and listening to now is all Triple Scoop Music stuff. It's royalty-free. You don't have to worry about copyrights. It's $50 a song, and it's good for 100 years that you can use on slideshows, whatever you want to do with it. Anyway, I shot their wedding, and Liza got pregnant right after the wedding a few years ago, and I found out that, unfortunately, at the birth in the hospital, their son died a couple hours later, and they were devastated, as anyone would be. And then, lo and behold, Liza got pregnant again, and Roy called me up. He said, "Do you mind shooting the birth?" I said, "I'm there with bells on." He didn't mention money. I didn't mention money. It wasn't about money. Once I shoot someone's wedding, I'm part of that family. That's how I ingrain myself. I so love what I do that I become part of that family. They hire me for pregnancy shoots. They hire me for births. They hire me for the first-year birthday parties. They hire me consistently. So not only am I a wedding photographer, I'm pretty much a family photographer after the wedding, okay? So he says, you need to be there at 6 a.m. There's going to be a cesarean section. We have issues one more time with the lungs may not be fully developed. Liza is scared out of her mind about it. And you'll see some images here where she starts to be overwhelmed. She gets overwhelmed with the thought of what's happening. And Roy is just leaning over, mask on, and he's saying something, and I can't hear what he's saying. But eventually, there's 2 frames where just this peace and calm comes over as she's looking up at him, and then even a smile. It was awesome. And then right after the birth, she starts to weep uncontrollably one more time, but it's because when he came out, he screamed at the top of his lungs. So, yay, his lungs were fine, and it's an awesome thing. And to this day, this is what inspires me. It's when I do it and there's no money attached to it. It's simply for the love of what I do. We all of us in this room, started out because we love it, like I said, you know, and I know we've got to put a business thing on it eventually to make a living at it, to continue to do our passion. But having said that, if there's a way to tap back into that passion first and the business part second, and here's one way, is this is also where you find out who you are as a photographer. Find personal projects to express yourself and who you are and why you shoot the way that you shoot. It is so fulfilling. It will fill your soul up. It will recharge your batteries. If you're ever down and saying, oh my God, if I have to shoot one more cake cutting, it will fill you up so that next weekend you're going to look at that cake cutting a whole other way. I promise you that. So this is Roy and Liza and Gavin's birth. Thanks. Thank you. Go home, find out who you are. Do some soul searching. Come from this place that you found when you first picked up the camera, your passion, and shoot from that place. Find a personal project in a way that you can express yourself. I know you guys have questions, but I know we have to go, and I want to thank you for letting me be here. Don't go anywhere, because now is the drawing for these things that B&H has so kindly thrown in here. You're going to be aware in a second. But thank you so much for letting me bend your ear for a minute about how I feel about what I do. Thanks.